The mockery, the emergency klaxon, echoed through the corridors of Nexus 7, the massive space station that served as headquarters for the Galactic Defense Council. In the central command chamber, holographic displays showed the devastating truth that had brought together representatives from 43 different species. Red markers indicated destroyed colonies, wiped out settlements, and silent communication beacons across the Outer Rim territories. Commander Elena Vasquez walked into the chamber wearing her standard Earth Defense Force uniform. The simple gray and blue fabric looked plain compared to the elaborate ceremonial armor and bio-integrated suits worn by the other species representatives. Her small human delegation followed behind her, carrying basic data tablets and looking somewhat overwhelmed by the scale of the gathering. The chamber itself was a marvel of galactic engineering. Atmospheric processors maintained different breathing environments for each species, while universal translators converted dozens of languages into comprehensible communication. Crystalline beings from Zarian Prime reflected light through their transparent bodies, while the massive insectoid warriors from Karak clicked their mandibles in rhythm with their thoughts. Admiral Zixthara of the Zarian Collective stood at the central podium. Her crystalline form caught the chamber's lighting and scattered it in brilliant patterns across the walls. When she spoke, her voice resonated through both audio and harmonic frequencies that most species could perceive. Fellow defenders of the galaxy, she began, her words carrying through the translation matrix. We face an unprecedented threat. The entity known as the Shadow Collective has destroyed 17 Outer Rim colonies in the past month. Entire systems have gone dark. Millions of lives have been lost. The holographic display shifted to show grainy footage from the few surviving reconnaissance drones. The enemy ships were unlike anything in the galactic databases. They appeared to be constructed from some kind of dark matter that absorbed light and sensor scans. Their weapons fired streams of energy that seemed to unravel matter at the molecular level. General Korthek of the Karak warrior clans stepped forward. His exoskeleton gleamed with biomechanical implants, and his forearms gestured dramatically as he spoke. Our intelligence suggests these Shadow Collective vessels number in the thousands. They move through space using some form of dark energy propulsion that our sensors cannot fully track. Every engagement has resulted in total defeat for our forces. Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembled representatives. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations were admitting that their technology was insufficient to handle this new threat. We must pool our resources, Admiral Zixthara continued. Every species must contribute their most advanced warships and weapons. This is not a time for holding back technological secrets. The very survival of galactic civilization is at stake. One by one, the representatives began presenting their contributions to the emergency fleet. The Zarian Collective displayed holographic models of their crystal ships, vessels that could channel stellar energy into devastating beam weapons. The crystalline hulls could withstand temperatures that would vaporize most materials, and their energy shields could deflect attacks powerful enough to crack planets. The Karak warriors showed off their biomechanical warships, living vessels that could adapt and evolve during combat. Their organic armor could regenerate damage in real time, while their neural weapons could interface directly with enemy systems to cause catastrophic overloads. The Ingenuity presented their phase-shift cruisers, ships that existed partially in subspace and could attack from dimensions that most species couldn't even perceive. Their quantum torpedoes could strike targets through solid matter, bypassing any known defense system. Each presentation was met with approving clicks, harmonic resonances, and other species-specific sounds of admiration. These were the pinnacles of galactic military technology, weapons and defenses that represented millennia of scientific advancement. When Commander Vasquez's turn came, the chamber grew noticeably quieter. She approached the podium with steady steps and activated her presentation device. The hologram that materialized showed a ship that looked almost primitive compared to the elegant vessels that had been displayed before. EDS Perseverance appeared, to be constructed from basic metal alloys and ceramic composites. Its hull was angular and utilitarian, with visible thruster ports and what appeared to be simple chemical propulsion systems. External weapon mounts were clearly visible, giving the ship the appearance of an old-fashioned naval vessel rather than an advanced starship. "This is Earth's contribution to the defense fleet," Vasquez said simply. "The Perseverance represents our most advanced space combat technology." The silence in the chamber was deafening. Several representatives exchanged glances that clearly conveyed their thoughts about human technological capabilities. Admiral Zixthara's crystalline form flickered with what might have been embarrassment. "Commander Vasquez," she said carefully, "we appreciate humanity's willingness to participate. But are you certain this vessel represents your species' most capable warship?" "I am certain," Vasquez replied, keeping her voice level, and professional. General Korthic's mandibles clicked in what passed for polite skepticism among his species. "With respect to our human allies, this appears to be chemical propulsion technology. Our analysis suggests your weapons are kinetic projectiles and explosive warheads." A representative from the Vorthan Science Collective, whose gaseous form floated in a containment suit, spoke up. "We mean no offense, but galactic warfare moved beyond such primitive methods over 2,000 years ago. Energy weapons, quantum manipulation, dimensional engineering, these are the tools required for modern space combat." More murmurs went through the assembled representatives. Elena could hear the barely concealed amusement in their translated voices. Her small delegation stood silently behind her, though she could sense their growing frustration at the dismissive treatment. Dr. Marcus Webb, the Perseverance's chief engineer, stepped forward slightly. "Commander, perhaps we should explain the ship's actual capabilities?" Vasquez shook her head almost imperceptibly. "That won't be necessary, Doctor. I'm sure our allies will appreciate any contribution we can make." Admiral Zixthara seemed relieved to find a diplomatic solution. "Of course, every ship will be valuable in the coming battle. Perhaps the human vessel could serve in a support capacity, supply runs, communication relay, evacuation duties for non-combatant vessels." The assignment was clear to everyone in the chamber. The humans were being politely told to stay out of the way of the real fighting. Alana felt her jaw tighten, but her voice remained steady. "We accept the assignment," she said. As the meeting continued, the other species discussed their battle strategies. The Zarian crystal ships would form the primary battle line, their energy weapons blazing with the power of stars. The Karat bioships would provide adaptive support, changing their configurations based on enemy tactics. The Etherian phase shifters would strike from subspace, hitting the enemy from angles they couldn't defend against. Everything depended on energy-based weapons, exotic physics, and defensive systems that operated on principles most species barely understood. Quantum shields that could deflect neutron star emissions, psionic disruptors that could shut down entire ship systems, and weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. During a break in the proceedings, Helena found herself on one of the station's observation decks. Through the transparent aluminum viewport, she could see the various species' fleets assembling. Crystal ships sparkled like jewels against the stars. Bio-vessels pulsed with organic life, and phase shifters flickered in and out of visible space. Dr. Webb approached quietly. "Commander, they have no idea what they're dealing with." Asterisk. "How so?" Elena asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. "Every species here has developed along similar technological paths. They've all moved toward energy-based weapons and defenses. They're thinking in terms of more power, more exotic physics, more advanced energy manipulation." Elena nodded slowly. "What does our intelligence say about the Shadow Collective?" Webb's expression grew serious. The classified reports are disturbing. These entities seem to feed on energy. Every energy weapon fired at them makes them stronger. Every energy shield they encounter gets absorbed and converted into power for their own systems. And yet the galactic powers want to fight them with more of the same technology that's already failing. Exactly. They're so advanced, they've forgotten that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. Elena looked out at the assembling alien fleet. Should we tell them what the Perseverance really is? Webb was quiet for a long moment. Your call, Commander. But I think they'll learn soon enough. Back in the command chamber, Admiral Zixthara was concluding the briefing. The combined fleet will deploy to the Terminus sector, where our long-range sensors have detected shadow collective movement. We will demonstrate that the galaxy will not surrender to these invaders. Cheers and various species-equivalent expressions of approval erupted throughout the chamber. Their advanced technology had never failed them before. Their energy weapons were the most powerful in known space. Their shields could stop anything the universe could throw at them. What possible threat could some unknown enemy pose to such overwhelming technological superiority? As the meeting ended, Elena gathered her delegation. The other humans looked frustrated and angry at how their species had been dismissed and marginalized. But Elena remained calm. Commander, Dr. Webb whispered, they're about to learn a very hard lesson about the difference between advanced and effective. Yes, Elena replied, looking out at the alien ships through the viewport. But so is the Shadow Collective. The ED's Perseverance hung in space among the support vessels, looking crude and primitive next to the sleek alien warships. It's basic. Metal hull and visible weapon systems made it appear like a relic from humanity's early space age. But appearances, as the galaxy was about to discover, could be very deceiving indeed. The fleet began its journey toward the Terminus sector, carrying with it the hopes and most advanced technology of dozens of civilizations. They were confident in their superiority, certain that their energy weapons and exotic physics would easily defeat whatever primitive force threatened the galaxy. They had no idea that the solution to their problem was sitting quietly among the supply ships, dismissed and ignored, waiting for its moment to show the galaxy what humanity had learned during its long, difficult journey to the stars. The Shadow Collective was coming, and the galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the old ways were not just the best ways, they were the only ways that worked. The revelation 3 days after departing from Nexus 7, the combined galactic fleet hung in formation at the edge of the Terminus sector. 43 different species had brought their most advanced warships, creating an armada that represented the pinnacle of galactic military might. Crystal vessels from the Zerion Collective caught starlight and refracted it into brilliant displays of color. Karak bioships pulsed with organic rhythms, their living hulls shifting and adapting constantly. Etherian phase shifters flickered between dimensions like ghosts made of metal and energy dot at the rear of the formation. Among the supply vessels and medical frigates, the human ship looked like a museum piece. The ED's Perseverance sat quietly, its utilitarian hull and visible weapon mounts making it nearly invisible among the support craft. From the bridge of her unremarkable ship, Commander Elena Vasquez studied the sensor readings on her basic display screens. The Perseverance's bridge looked ancient compared to the quantum interfaces and neural command systems used by the other species. Simple radar dishes, optical telescopes, and electromagnetic sensors gave the command center an almost primitive appearance. But Dr. Webb and his engineering team had spent months calibrating these systems for a very specific purpose. Contact. In 15 minutes, Lieutenant Sarah Chun reported from the communication station. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures approaching through hyperspace. Around the fleet, alien captains were making their final preparations. energy weapons charged with power that could shatter moons. Shields powered by contained fusion reactions flickered to life. Quantum torpedoes that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously were loaded into firing tubes. Admiral Zixtharas' voice resonated across the fleet communications network. All ships, this is Fleet Command. The enemy will emerge from hyperspace in approximately 10 minutes. Primary battle line, prepare for immediate engagement. Support vessels, maintain safe distance, and prepare for emergency evacuation procedures. Elena listened to the confident chatter between the alien ships. Many of these species had never faced a real existential threat. This would be their opportunity to demonstrate the absolute superiority of their technology. Commander, Dr. Webb said quietly from his engineering station, "Our passive sensors are picking up something the others are missing." "What kind of something?" "The energy signatures from the approaching ships. They're not just powerful, they're hungry. Like they're actively drawing in background radiation and electromagnetic energy from the surrounding space." Elena frowned. The human sensors were basic compared to what the other species used, but sometimes simple equipment detected things that sophisticated systems overlooked. "Any theories?" Webb's expression was grim. "If I had to guess, I'd say these ships don't just use energy, they consume it. Everything the fleet is about to throw at them will just make them stronger." Before Elena could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. Massive rifts in reality appeared throughout the sector, and through them came the Shadow Collective. The enemy ships were unlike anything in galactic records. They were black, but not the black of empty space or dark matter. They seemed to absorb light itself, creating holes in the visible spectrum where they existed. Their shapes defied conventional understanding, holes that curved through dimensions that shouldn't exist. Weapons that looked like mechanical mouths opening and closing hungrily. "By the eternal crystals," whispered Admiral Zixthara over the open channel. "What are those abominations?" General Korthik's biomechanical voice clicked with shock. "Our sensors cannot get coherent readings. It's as if they exist partially outside normal spacetime." The Shadow Collective ships moved with predatory grace, spreading out in formations that seemed to bend the fabric of space around them. There were hundreds of them, each one radiating an aura of wrongness that made seasoned space veterans feel primitive fear. "All ships, attack formation," Admiral Zixthara commanded. "Primary battle line, advance and engage. Show them the power of galactic civilization." The Zarian crystal ships moved forward first, their hulls blazing with stored stellar energy. Beams of concentrated starlight lanced out toward the Shadow Collective vessels, carrying enough power to vaporize asteroids and melt the cores of planets. The weapons struck the enemy hulls and simply vanished, absorbed without any visible effect whatsoever. "Impossible," breathed the Zarian fleet commander. "Our weapons are being completely negated. It's as if they're feeding on our energy output." The Karak bioships tried next, their adaptive weapons cycling through different energy frequencies. Plasma beams, particle streams, exotic radiation bursts. Each attack was absorbed as easily as the last. The bioships began evolving their weapon configurations, trying to find some frequency or energy type that would affect the enemy. But nothing worked. The Etherian phase shifters attacked from subspace, their quantum torpedoes existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The weapons passed through the Shadow Collective ships without any effect, as if the enemy existed in all possible dimensions at once and could neutralize attacks from any angle. "This is impossible." Admiral Zixthara's voice was strained with disbelief. "All weapons ineffective. Repeat, all energy-based weapons completely ineffective." The Shadow Collective began their counterattack. Weapons that looked like living darkness emerged from their hulls and fired streams of pure void. The attacks weren't energy beams or particle weapons. they were something far more terrifying. They were streams of nothingness that seemed to unravel matter at the fundamental level. The first Xerian ship to be hit simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next there was empty space where a kilometer-long crystal warship had been. Not destroyed, not vaporized, simply erased. From reality, all ships retreat. General Korthik screamed across the communications. Emergency withdrawal. All vessels fall back immediately. But the Shadow Collective was faster than anyone had anticipated. The alien ships swarmed forward like hungry predators, their void weapons reaching out to consume everything in their path. A Karak bioship tried to adapt its defenses, rapidly evolving new armor configurations. But the enemy weapon passed through every shield variant and began eating the vessel from the inside out. An Etherian phase shifter tried to escape into subspace, but the void streams followed it through dimensional barriers. The ship's destruction created ripples across multiple realities simultaneously. From her position among the support vessels, Elena watched the slaughter through her optical telescopes. The most advanced fleet in galactic history was being systematically destroyed. Every exotic weapon, every energy-based defense system, every technological marvel it had taken millennia to develop was worse than useless against this enemy. "Commander," Dr. Webb said, his voice tight with concentration, "I'm analyzing the debris patterns. The destroyed ships are being pushed away from the Shadow Collective vessels by something." Elena studied the tactical display where wreckage from the alien ships drifted in space. The debris wasn't scattered randomly. It was being displaced by physical forces. Asterisk. They're not immune to kinetic impacts. Webb continued. Look at the mass displacement readings. Every time one of their weapons fires, it creates measurable recoil. Effects. They have mass. They follow basic physics. Elena realized what he was saying. While the enemy ships could absorb and neutralize energy weapons, they still obeyed fundamental physical laws. They had mass, which meant they could be moved, damaged, and destroyed by simple kinetic force. Asterisk. Asterisk. Request permission to engage. Elena said into her communicator. Admiral Zixthara's response was immediate and desperate. Negative. All ships maintain distance. This is beyond any of our capabilities. But Elena was already moving. All stations. Battle stations. Dr. Webb, initiate Protocol 7. Commander, Fleet Command has ordered us to maintain position. Fleet Command is about to be wiped out unless someone does something different, Elena replied calmly. And we're the only ones here with something different to offer. On the main screen, another wave of galactic ships was being erased by the Shadow Collective. The enemy was methodically working through the fleet, consuming every energy attack, and responding with weapons that seemed to delete matter from existence. The other support ships were pulling back even further, trying to stay out of range. Medical vessels and supply craft scattered in all directions. Only the EDS Perseverance was moving forward, its basic bulk accelerating toward the heart of the battle. Dr. Webb, are all systems ready? Protocol 7 fully initiated, Commander. All weapon systems online and ready for deployment. Across the hull of the Perseverance, panels that had appeared to be simple armor plating began to slide away. Hidden weapon mounts rose from concealed positions throughout the ship. What had looked like crude external fixtures split open to reveal sophisticated targeting and firing systems. The ship's entire appearance was changing as its true nature became visible. The Perseverance was not the primitive vessel it had appeared to be. Hidden beneath its utilitarian exterior was humanity's unique approach to space warfare. Mass drivers, capable of accelerating projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. Kinetic penetrators made from tungsten and depleted uranium cores. Smart missiles that were actually guided projectiles with artificial intelligence. Systems capable of independent targeting decisions. The galaxy thinks we're primitive, Because we use kinetic weapons, Elena said to her crew. Let's show them what 10,000 years of throwing rocks has taught us. The first Shadow Collective ship turned its attention to the approaching human vessel. Its void weapon discharged, sending a stream of nothingness toward the Perseverance. The attack struck the ship's specially designed ablative armor and was absorbed without visible effect. Their void weapons can't penetrate our kinetic barriers, Dr. Webb reported with satisfaction. The armor is working exactly as designed. Excellent. Time for a proper demonstration. All weapons open fire. The Perseverance unleashed everything it carried. Mass drivers discharged tungsten rods at 12% of light speed. Smart missiles streaked away from launch tubes, each one guided by its own artificial intelligence and armed with kinetic kill warheads designed for maximum momentum transfer. Smaller weapons fired streams of hypervelocity, projectiles that looked like deadly rain against the stars. The effect on the Shadow Collective ships was immediate and devastating. The tungsten rods punched through their hulls like they were made of paper, creating massive breaches that vented atmosphere and internal fluids into space. The smart missiles struck with pinpoint accuracy, their kinetic energy transferring into heat and mechanical destruction that tore the enemy vessels apart from within. But what truly amazed the watching galactic fleet was not just the weapons themselves, but how they were being used. Elena was employing tactics that came from humanity's long history of naval warfare, adapted for space combat in ways the galaxy had never conceived. Come about 15 degrees port, Elena ordered. Use their own formation against them. The Perseverance maneuvered between two Shadow Collective vessels, positioning itself so that the enemy couldn't fire their void weapons without hitting each other. Then it launched a spread of harpoon missiles, projectiles, connected to ultra-strong cables that embedded themselves in enemy hulls. Engage tractor protocols, Elena commanded. The ship's engines fired, using the cables and raw thrust to physically pull the two Shadow Collective ships into collision with each other. The impact was spectacular, both vessels crumpling and exploding, as their exotic hulls were crushed together by simple momentum and mass. Across the fleet communications, alien voices filled with amazement and desperate hope. How are they doing this? The Zarian commander whispered. Their weapons are so basic, added a Karak captain, but they're completely effective against the enemy. Admiral Zixtaro's voice cut through the chatter. Commander Vasquez, how is your vessel able to damage them when our most advanced weapons cannot? Elena's reply was professional and calm. Their technology is designed to absorb and redirect energy. Our weapons don't use energy. They use physics. Mass times velocity equals force. It's the oldest equation in the book. What she didn't explain was the full sophistication behind human kinetic warfare. The Perseverance wasn't primitive at all. It represented humanity's unique evolutionary path in military technology. While other species had moved toward energy, manipulation, and exotic physics, humans had perfected the science of applied momentum. The ship's armor wasn't just ablative plating. It was a quantum-structured composite that could absorb vast amounts of energy and convert it to dispersed heat through sophisticated thermal management systems. The weapons weren't simple projectiles. They were guided by artificial intelligence networks that could calculate trajectories across interplanetary distances while compensating for gravity wells, solar winds, and enemy evasive maneuvers. Dr. Webb, Elena said quietly, show them the real surprise. Webb grinned and activated the final sequence of Protocol 7. Along the Perseverance's hull, what had appeared to be structural reinforcements split open to reveal the ship's primary weapon system. A railgun that ran nearly the entire length of the vessel, capable of accelerating projectiles to 20% of light speed. Main gun charged and ready, Commander. The railgun fired with an electromagnetic pulse that could be detected across the entire star system. The projectile it launched was not just a simple kinetic kill vehicle. It was a smart round with its own guidance system, a tungsten iridium penetrator core, and shaped charges designed to create maximum internal damage after impact. Asterisk, the target, was the largest Shadow Collective ship in the formation, a massive vessel that had been directing the enemy assault. The smart round struck it dead center and punched completely through the hull, the penetrator core detonating inside the ship's central structure. The explosion broke the enemy vessel's back, splitting it into 3 pieces that tumbled away. Different directions. The psychological effect on both fleets was immediate and profound. The galactic ships that had been fleeing in panic suddenly realized the enemy could be defeated. The Shadow Collective ships, which had been advancing with predatory confidence, suddenly found themselves facing something they couldn't adapt to or overcome. All ships. Admiral Zixtara's voice rang with new hope across the communications network. The humans have found their weakness. All vessels with any kind of kinetic weapons engage immediately. But the galactic fleet had few kinetic weapons to offer. Most species had abandoned such primitive technology centuries ago. Some mining vessels carried mass drivers. A few exploration ships had meteor defense systems, but nothing approaching the Perseverance's specialized arsenal. Elena realized the battle now depended entirely on her ship and crew. Dr. Webb, what's our ammunition status? 60% remaining, Commander. But we've got enough smart rounds and penetrator cores to finish this fight. The Shadow Collective was adapting, trying to swarm the human ship with overwhelming numbers. But Elena had anticipated this. She ordered the Perseverance into the heart of the enemy formation, where their void weapons couldn't be used without hitting their own ships. Asterisk. What followed was a masterpiece of tactical warfare. The human ship danced between enemy vessels, using their mass and momentum against them. Cable-towed collisions, gravitational slingshot maneuvers, and precisely calculated impact cascades turned the Shadow Collective's numerical advantage into a liability. Within 2 hours, the battle was over. The surviving Shadow Collective ships retreated through dimensional rifts, leaving behind wreckage and the shocked silence of the galactic fleet. Commander Vasquez, Admiral Zixtara's voice was filled with something that might have been awe. How did you know their weakness? Elena smiled as she looked out at the debris field where humanity's primitive weapons had achieved what the galaxy's most advanced technology could not. Sometimes, she said, the simplest answer is the right answer. We've spent 10,000 years learning that if you want to move something, break something, or stop something, nothing beats good old-fashioned momentum. The galaxy had learned the lesson that day about the difference between advanced and effective. And humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through exotic physics or energy manipulation, but through the oldest principle known to thinking. Beings, sometimes a rock thrown hard enough, can change the course of history.